Happy New Year, everyone. Wishing you a peaceful, healthy, and prosperous 2021. I'm Yelena Surilov, the Associate Director of International Engagements at the Office of Alumni Relations. On behalf of Northeastern University and myself, I hope you and your family are staying safe and healthy during this turbulent time. Welcome to our final session, the grand finale on Raja Yoga meditation brought to us by Brahma Kumari's World Spiritual University. Each session worked as a standalone experience or as a part of the whole series of 6, where participants explore the relationship with themselves, the others, and with the rapidly changing world. If you're interested to review the series, please feel free to email me. My email is here on my screen. Feel free to do that. Before we proceed to our official program, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. Please keep your microphones on mute and video off during the whole presentation. I would like to stress that the only way you can ask your questions is to type them in the Q&A section in the bottom of your screen. Please do not use the raise your hand function as we only monitor in the Q&A section. I also recommend to put your view in Zoom on speaker view. There is a button on the right top corner of your screen to do that. So without further ado, I would like to turn the microphone to our Istanbul community leader, Hilal Orhan, graduate from the Mormakim School of Business in 2003 with an MBA degree. Hilal was the one who brought this experience to us. And Hilal has also been leading in Istanbul community since its official launch in 2009 and proved to be a true Northeastern supporter. Hilal, the floor is yours.
A very good evening to everyone. As Yelena said, this is the final episode of a long journey that we started together with a team of, yogis and with Yelena all together since last June. Tonight's program will give us an opportunity to actually hear all about meditation, what meditation is, and from both of the spectrum, scientific, also practical side of it. Scientific side, we will hear a professor from Northeastern, Professor Susan, and the practical aspect of meditation, how our thoughts, manifests in our day-to-day life, because these yogis practically apply Raj Yoga meditation into their day-to-day life. Actually, our thoughts manifest, and we will hear and we will witness from the speakers today. All our thoughts manifest in our lives, but we forget about it, and we don't realize that it manifests because it probably, time lapse, and as it is not within a short period of time, we forget about it. So going back to my story, as if you allow me, the speakers and Philippa, as this being the last episode, as far as I can remember back, my yogi life started since yesterday. That's how short my memory span. But a particular example from my life, how thoughts manifest in my life, was back in primary school, because we were studying in the science classroom. We were studying the body and how all the organs function, this and that. And I was really mesmerized, especially with the heart and brain. So I remember after becoming a student at the spiritual university, I flash back to that time in the classroom. And I was asking in the science classroom to my teacher at primary school, a question. I said, there are everything, and for everything there's a manual, because those were the years that, the colored TVs, video recorders were just new. And for everything there were manuals. So I said, As there are manuals, user manuals, is there a user manual for this body? So that was my question. By then, or what it had seemed very peculiar question, years later flashback, and I found my very user manual, not for this body or the body itself, but I found the user manual at the spiritual university. And I feel that this is a manual, not for day-to-day life, but it's like for the renewing and for refining what's going to become. So it's not a user manual of the current time, but it's like a creation. So it's like a future, like user manual. So I hope my story and my sharing will bring some inspiration, especially after hearing the speakers. And there will be newness also in your lives this year. And please accept this as my New Year gift to all the listeners. And thank you for participating to all the episodes, and especially to this one, because we will witness how our thoughts really manifest in our lives. And as a last word, I would like to share a motto of Spiritual University. It says, if it's not now, then never. Not in the sense to kind of like dishearten, but to stress, emphasize that time is now and we cannot delay it. Thank you very much. And over to you, Philippa.
Thank you so much to both Yelena at Northeastern in Boston and to Hilal in Turkey for your words of welcome and your blessings for all of us for 2021. I think, Hilal, your description of a manual, a life manual is a beautiful one, not just for the life we're living now, but a manual for the life that we would like to live in the future. I think that's a lovely way of putting it. So a very warm welcome from me as well, Philippa Blackham. You're joining us for the 6th episode in a series of programs that has very much been a collaboration between Northeastern University in Boston and the Brahma Kumaris, which has teaching centers in over 110 countries throughout the world. And it has been really quite a journey of self-discovery that we have been on since autumn last year, really, as we've really delved into some quite deep topics, understanding what we mean by awareness and consciousness, trying to really get a handle on who is the I that I refer to when I look within. And also when we have a spiritual understanding of awareness, how that begins to change the way we see the world around us, how it changes the way we interact with other people. We've also been looking at how we create a vision going forwards, how our beliefs shape what we would like to achieve in the world, how we would like to see the world change. And also in our most recent session, very much looking at a vision of the future world and seeing how we need to really be thinking in a new way to adapt to the changes that we are seeing around us at this present time. And as Yelena said, if you have missed any of the earlier programs and you'd like to catch up, we will be giving you an email at the end of the program, and you can drop us a line and we can send you a link so you can listen back to all these programs. Now, of course, as Hilal has been saying, we thought it would be nice to finish with a deep dive into really what do we mean by meditation. It's something that we have talked about throughout the series, but it's not something that we focused on in its entirety. And that's what we plan to do in today's session as we tap the source of our own serenity and well-being, which is the title of today's event. So today's session is going to be informative, it's going to be practical, it's also going to be experiential. We're going to be having plenty of chances to really experience what it is that we're talking about here today. We have three very experienced yogis joining us. I think between them, they've got over 80 years experience of meditation. So I think we're in really safe hands. And we also have a professor of psychology from Northeastern University itself, which we're absolutely delighted about, not least because it's going to really give us a good insight into what happens in our mind when we meditate. And there have been some very interesting experiments carried out which really show the relationship between the thoughts that we have and also what we're feeling physically in our bodies. And of course, these days, there are so many reasons for us to make a meditation as a part of our life, to make our mind our best friend, because it's a tool for coping with this rapidly changing world that we now live in. There's uncertainty around, there's perhaps job uncertainty, financial uncertainty, relationship uncertainty. On every front, we're facing uncertainty. And I'm sure, like me, over the past 12 months, you've had moments when things can start to feel a little bit overwhelming and you begin to think, right, I can feel that panic feeling coming up. And of course, you can take a few deep breaths, and that's obviously a good place to begin. But what do you do after that? How do you bring yourself back to a place of complete calm and tranquility, no matter what is going on around you, no matter what your circumstances? Sounds like quite a tall order, but that's where we're hoping to get you to by the end of today's session. Well, let me introduce you to our speakers for today. And first we have Gabriella Harvard, who is a learning and development consultant at Oxford University Press here in the UK. Now, Gabby was originally from South Africa, and she lived there until she was 18 when she came to the UK to live in the UK for the first time. And she has many years' experience as a coach, as a mentor and workshop facilitator. She's also been practicing Raj Yoga meditation for 15 years now. And Gabby is joining us from Oxford. Gabby, welcome to you. Thanks so much for sparing the time to be with us today. Now, you've been working what is actually quite a pressurized job from home since March last year because of the lockdown. How have you found that? And the people that you work with, because you're in charge of people's learning and personal potential development, how do you think other people have found it as well? Is it less stressful, would you say?
Oh, it's, well, first of all, thank you for the introduction. It's lovely to be with everyone this evening. I think it's a difficult question to answer on behalf of other people. I can only really speak for myself, although, you know, I've spoken to lots of people at work who are in different situations and circumstances, and I think that makes quite a big difference. For myself, I live on my own, so that has its pros and cons. I'm not homeschooling, which I know has been very challenging for many people, being at home and having to share a workspace perhaps with their partners as well. But of course, living on your own also means that maybe you aren't interacting with people as often as before, which is definitely the case for me. But at the same time, I almost feel as though the COVID situation has brought me and my work colleagues closer. There's been some dissolving of those maybe more formal professional boundaries, and I feel like we've been able to be more real and more open with each other than maybe we have done in the past. So yeah, a mix of different things, but of course, good days and bad days. Yeah.
And now, hand on heart, have you conducted a business session on Zoom with fluffy pajamas and slippers underneath the desk that no one can see? Because that's what a lot of people are telling stories about.
I have some very chunky track bottoms with fleece on the inside, which are my go-to on the cold days. I have to wash and dry them quickly so I could keep wearing them. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that's definitely one advantage of working from home. I think if you can wear a pair of fluffy socks whilst you're at work, that can't be too bad. So next up, we have someone who really has had the huge fortune of being born into a family of meditators. So meditation has always been a very natural part of life. Yogesh Sharda grew up in London, having been born in Malawi in Africa to Indian parents. He also then lived in Oxford for many years before then moving to Turkey, where he's been coordinating the work of the Brahma Kumaris for, I think, almost 20 years now, Yogesh. His professional work as an executive coach with top businesses has seen him traveling all around the world, delivering courses and talks to people from all backgrounds and all walks of life. Now, usually, Yogesh, you're living in Istanbul, but because of the COVID numbers there, you've actually temporarily relocated to a beautiful house by the sea, no doubt palm-fringed beach. So, you know, my heart really goes out to you for having to put up with your current difficult circumstances. But do you really feel the situation is quite different where you are now out of the city? Is it noticeably different?
Yes, certainly. I mean, there are much less people here. The nature is wonderful, which has an effect on people's temperament, and it's much less crowded. So big city life anyway is very stressful, and people have this fear of being too close to others. But where there's space, people seem to be more free and to move around, enjoy nature. So there's definitely a different feel in this part of the country.
I mean, as Gabby was saying, it's certainly the case that everyone has a very different experience according to their circumstance, where they're living, how they're living. But, you know, I think no matter what situation you're in, it has been a stressful time, and there is certainly uncertainty. Well, we'll be hearing more from Yogesh in just a moment, but let me just continue with our introductions, as our final meditator is from another beautiful part of the world, Tampa in Florida, no doubt not short of palm-fringed beaches there either. Now, having done her first degree in civil engineering, Shireen Chada came over to the US from her hometown in Hyderabad in India when she was 21 in order to do her master's degree. And while she was there, she came across the Brahma Kumaris at a local museum and has stayed ever since. Now, along with writing 3 books on her experience of meditation, she's also turned her creative skills to the production of beautiful meditation videos under the banner Release Your Wings. And I'm really delighted that Shireen has created a meditation experience with audio visuals, which is going to be shared in today's session for the very first time. Shireen, thank you so much, and a really warm welcome to you. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Philippa.
Now, when you're that's really great to have you. So what do you find is your starting point when you're putting together a meditation experience? Do you feel it's the words that you're using in a commentary? Is it the music? Is it the visuals? Or what do you feel for most people is the thing which really helps them get into the zone the quickest?
There are 2 questions in there, actually. What is my starting point and what helps other people? So my starting point would be the words, because I am like a word person, but I know that for others, it is visuals and music. So I take great pains to even pick the right visuals and music because of that.
So it really works together as a tapestry almost that creates the complete experience.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be talking to you about how you do that, and as I said, experiencing one of your meditation videos in today's session. But finally, let me give a warm welcome to our special guest from Northeastern University itself, as we are delighted to be joined by Professor Susan Whitfield-Gabrielli, who is Professor in the Department of Psychology. Susan, welcome to you, and it's so great to have input from the Northeastern University that we've been talking about throughout this series. So thanks for being with us. It's great to have you. And of course, you're doing work now which is very much looking to understand what happens in our brain when we meditate. And you set up an experiment with young people, getting them to learn meditation and do meditation. And we're going to be talking about that shortly. But how did you find it with those young people? Were they up for doing this, or did they need a bit of persuasion, do you think?
First of all, thank you, Philippa. Thank you so much for inviting me today. It's really a wonderful pleasure and honor. It was actually a real, first, they were a little bit wondering what's going to happen, but they, I think, saw the benefits fairly quickly. And the teachers saw the benefits as well. So it was a school-based program for 8 weeks, and they did it within the school infrastructure. And it was really striking to see, you know, well, of course, we saw the data afterwards to see their attention increase and their self-perceived stress decrease, but you could see it in the children. It was really spectacular.
I mean, that is quite something, because today's kids are never without a device. They're never without mental stimulation of one sort or another, often more than one screen at a time. So to tell them that we're going to take everything away and you're just going to sit there with your thoughts and on the outside not actually do anything, I can imagine some people finding that quite hard to do. We're going to be talking more to you, Susan, very shortly. But before we get too stuck in, Yogesh, I thought it would be lovely if we could just begin, as we mean to carry on today, with just a few moments to gather our thoughts, gather our energy, and just come together in this shared space of meditation for today's session. So if you could just lead us in a few minutes with your own thoughts, that would be really great.
Okay, so thank you so much, Philippa. So let me invite everyone, if you're sitting on a chair, if possible, just to have your back straight, your feet flat on the floor. And we're just going to do a little exercise to relax the body, but also to relax the mind, and just to visit the peace which lies at the very center of the consciousness. And so for these next few moments, let me just allow the mind to slow down. I choose to take a few moments to step back from the world of doing, from the world of action, and I come to my inner world, the world of my thoughts. Let me visit, let me experience the stillness, the peace, which is within my own self. And so just bring the attention up towards the face, and bring your attention to the center of the forehead. And here just picture a tiny room, and this is the quiet room of peace. Just visualize this very pleasant, quiet room of peace in the center of the forehead. And this is my private and personal space. And when I am inside this room, I feel completely relaxed. This is the place where I can be myself. Inside this quiet room, I am safe, secure. I am free from the pressures and the demands of the outside world. I can let go of my daily roles and responsibilities. Feel the peace and the wonderful silence of your quiet room. And just allow the mind to absorb this atmosphere of serenity, tranquility. The thoughts begin to slow down. The mind becomes calm, quiet, relaxed, peaceful, and free. Just be with this feeling of peace, this stillness in your mind for a moment. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Yogesh. What a beautiful way to start our session. I feel like we've almost done our work with just that one meditation experience. Beautiful. To have that idea of a quiet room or an inner room of quiet peace, a quiet room of inner peace is just a lovely idea. That there is a room within us that we can go to, and that everybody has that. It's not a single person on the planet that has been missed out when it comes to having that inner room of quiet peace within. And we just need to learn how to open the door and sit in there and be in there. So Yogesh, thank you so much for opening our session today. And we'll be hearing more from you, and indeed having another meditation experience with you a little later on in the program. So we said it was going to be informative, practical and experiential. And I think let's dive in straight away with the informative, because we have Susan with us, and Susan has been doing an enormous amount of research looking at brain functioning and what happens in our brain when we sit intentionally with this purpose of wanting to meditate. Susan, talk us through what your intention was when you began this particular research project. What were you hoping to discover?
Thank you for asking that question. So I've been working a lot with people who have been suffering from very severe to mild mental disorders, ranging from anxiety, depression, ADHD. and a lot of psychosis. And I have been working a lot with psychopharmacological methods to help people alleviate their symptoms, but I was really looking to look for more behavioral measures to alleviate some of these symptoms. And so the more research I did with mindfulness meditation, I realized that it was accessible to so many people who could really achieve great things, change their brain networks, and be able to, minimize some symptoms that are difficult to change.
Because so many people, when they hit that road bump of anxiety, depression, the feeling of falling apart, and, we've all of us touched that experience at some time in our life. Very often the go-to thing is medication, that you just take a pill and kind of get through it.
Right.
And for you in this research, you're very much looking to see how meditation could work alongside medication to bring a state of calm and reduced anxiety. And you're working specifically with young children. Tell us about the project and what you did and how you set it up.
Well, we're working with young children as well as teens with anxiety and depression, as well as adults with psychosis. With the children, we have been using mindfulness interventions, or I should say mindfulness training in the schools in Boston. So we have trained the teachers and the children 12 years of age to perform mindfulness meditation. And we do 8 weeks of this mindfulness meditation for 15 minutes a day, which is in the construct of the school system. And what we found is we did brain imaging before and after. And what we found was that the children, although a little bit apprehensive at first, did engage in the mindfulness meditation, deep breathing exercises, focusing on the present. And what we found was that their brain networks were modulated in very meaningful ways. And the modulation or changes of brain networks corresponded to decreased self-perceived stress and increase in attention.
And you came up with this cunning idea of creating a visual representation of what is going on in the mind. In other words, seeing your thoughts put in front of you, which is quite an exhilarating idea. How did that part of the project work? How did you carry that out?
That's a wonderful question. So with many different behavioral modifications or modulations, you don't really get any kind of visual feedback as to how you're actually changing your brain. And so for many years, starting 20 years ago back at Stanford, we tried to develop a technique to train people to change their brain networks or brain activation in certain regions. And so we thought, well, wouldn't that be wonderful if we could teach people how to do mindfulness meditation a little bit better, if we could feed back, give them a visual display of how they're actually changing their brain when they're performing mindfulness meditation. And so we wanted to take this wonderful intervention or wonderful mindfulness-based ability to change your brain and just give the visual feedback to individuals who are practicing mindfulness meditation to let them see how they're actually in real time changing their brain.
And I mean, we're going to look at some slides in a minute, which will explain this further. But what can you say about the changes that do occur in us, both in our brain and also maybe in our bodies, when we do successfully bring ourselves to a place of calm and meditation?
That's a wonderful question. And to answer that question, I'll first tell you about a particular brain network that neuroscientists have identified with the use of neuroimaging called the default mode network. And that brain network is really interesting because it really is associated with our inner mental selves. And so we noticed that, well, first of all, it's called the brain default mode network because it's not activated when we're performing a particular task, but rather when our minds are free to roam. So we may be reminiscing about the past, we may be planning about the future, or if we're feeling a little bit depressed, we may be ruminating about the past, or if we're feeling a bit anxious, we may be worrying about the future. However, if we use mindfulness meditation that allows us to focus on the present instead of rehashing the past or worrying about the future, we find that this mindfulness meditation can suppress this default mode network and allow us to reduce these symptoms that are related to anxiety and depression, like stress, worry, rumination, and even increase attention. And that's what we found in the children, and that's what we found in patients who are suffering from mental illness.
So there's a way of actually measuring the brain, the signals being given out by the brain, which demonstrate this change, this process of change. I'm just wondering about the meditators that we've got on today's session, whether we could, we can't, but it would be fun to see when they meditate, whether their mind is wandering or whether they're actually, you know, nicely focused in the present moment. Would you be able to determine how well someone is meditating using this technology and equipment?
Not only can we determine how much they're mindful versus mind wandering, but they can see visual feedback, which helps accelerate the learning process of mindfulness meditation, and may even augment the clinical and cognitive benefits, in the sense that they may be even able to achieve the benefits of mindfulness meditation even faster and even more.
Right. Well, maybe somehow we'll do it, but I'd be very interested to see an experienced meditator and what's happening to their brain frequencies as they're meditating. But show us the slides that you've got and talk us through how you accumulated this data and what the experiment actually looked like for the person who was actually in the process, in the program.
Okay, can you see my slides here?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what we have devised is a technology based on magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI, to be able to give visual feedback to how people are changing their brain networks through mindfulness meditation. And so what you'll see here is that in this particular case, we have a patient lying in the scanner, and we'll recording their brain activation with fMRI, which tracks the bold signal, which measures where the blood is flowing in the brain. And then we give them visual feedback through this mirror on how they're changing their brain when they're performing mindfulness meditation. So they're just lying in the scanner performing mindfulness meditation, but they're not just doing mindfulness meditation, they're also getting visual feedback. And that visual feedback is coming from the fMRI signal that we're tracking. So here they are lying in the scanner.
And what do you mean? What do you mean by fMRI? Can you just say what that is?
So this is functional magnetic resonance imaging, which is a way in which we use this MRI scanner to track where the blood is flowing in the brain, and then we can look at these networks in the brain, and we are targeting on an individual level various networks like the default mode network, which we know is related to the inner mind wandering and mindful self, as well as something called the central executive network, which we know is activated when we're performing attention demanding tasks. And then we track these signals and transform these signals into a ball task. And so the patients are lying in the scanner performing mindfulness meditation while simultaneously doing a ball task. And what we're training them to do is basically performing this task so that we can identify the default mode network, which we know is related to the inner mental space, and it's increased when we may be anxious, worried about the future, or depressed, or ruminating about the past. And we're tracking that signal, which is located here in blue. We're also tracking a brain network called the central executive network, which we can locate here in red. And when you're engaged in mindfulness meditation, what happens is that you're suppressing or decreasing the default mode network and increasing the central executive because you're attending. And so that's a good brain state for mindfulness meditation. So that signal is transformed over to the ball task, and it moves the ball with a hop size relative to the difference of these signals. And the goal of the task is to move the ball up into the red circle up here. So we track the brain as people are doing mindfulness meditation. However, if the subject is mind wandering, then what happens is that the default mode network increases and the central executive decreases. In that case, that's a bad mindful state. And so then when you transform that fMRI signal into the ball task, the ball moves down. So the patients are trained to move the white ball with their mind. So they're literally not moving anything other than the brain activation with their mind. So they're using the mind to move the ball. And the ball moves up with the goal of moving up into the yellow circle when they're focused with mindfulness meditation. However, the ball will move down when they're mind wandering. To the left over here, you'll see what the experimenter is tracking. You can see a region in the front of the brain called the medial cortex, or in the side of the brain called the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. These regions are representing the default mode network and the central executive, respectively. And so this is what the experimenter is seeing, and this is what the patient is seeing. So they're moving the ball simply by doing mindfulness meditation. And I can show you an example, if you'll let me, where this is a patient who has been struggling. And at first, this patient was not able to diminish the default mode network. We trained this patient how to do mindfulness meditation. And I'll show you an example of what happens with this patient's brain activation when they performed mindfulness meditation. This patient is in the scanner. He was performing mindfulness meditation here at the time point 15, which is 30 seconds into the scan. And everything you see over here is what the experimenter sees. Everything you see over here is what the patient is seeing. And I see I'm showing you a little brain here where he's pumping his weights to like increase his attention and decrease the negative effects of anxiety and depression that comes about when focusing too much on the internal self. So you can see that change, and you can also see the temporal dynamics change over here. So I'll play this video, and you can see on the left-hand side what's happening with the brain networks, and you can see on the right-hand side how the patient is able to change his brain networks with mindfulness meditation. So here you can see in green the default mode network starting right now when he's starting to meditate. He's pushing that default network down. He's increasing his central executive. You can see it. He's moving the ball up. He gets the ball up into the yellow circle. That circle shrinks to make the task dynamically more difficult. And you can see, and I'll play it one more time, that the patient was able to do this quite successfully. And I have to say the patient, and not only this patient, but many patients have been extremely excited about being able to manipulate their brain through mindfulness meditation. And they often consequently have diminished clinical symptoms, including anxiety, depression, and even auditory hallucinations.
I mean, this is absolutely brilliant and absolutely fascinating that there are two different brain functionings, one when we're going about our normal day-to-day life, and another one when we are intentionally bringing ourselves to a place of calm through meditation. And I feel like this should be available to everyone. This should be something that we should all have access to, because the consequences of seeing how your thinking is affecting you is there for you in black and white, as is so brilliantly demonstrated. How excited were the patients, the subjects in this, to see how they did have a control over their thinking, and what difference do you think participating in this actually made to their lives?
I have to tell you that that's what I'm most excited about, having a one-on-one interaction with the patients. And we started this with a sample of patients who were suffering from severe auditory hallucinations with schizophrenia. And it was, they were primarily treatment resistant. In other words, they've tried various pharmacological interventions and so on and so forth. But when we were able to teach them how to do mindfulness meditation, and they were able to see how they themselves could control their brain networks and brain activation, they were really excited. I just can't even convey the excitement that they had when they came out of the center. They want to come back over and over and over. They're super excited. They practice mindfulness meditation when they're not in the scanner. And that has had a tremendous impact on their, not only their brain networks, but also their symptoms. They have had significantly fewer and less severe auditory hallucinations. And this also can help people suffering from ADHD, anxiety, depression, and even people who are not necessarily suffering from mental illness to be able to gain control over their mental lives and brain activation. It could help, just basically a tool for them to use.
And do you feel optimistic that you can persuade clinicians to think more along these lines rather than the go-to medication that they might be used to prescribing?
Well, I think it's a challenge to persuade people not to go first to pharmacology. However, and then, the devil's advocate may say, well, MRIs are really expensive. Why should we put all of our patients in an MRI? But there are electrophysiological correlates of these signals that we're modulating or changing that we're actually looking into right now, signatures of the default mode network that we may be able to train people to change. And ultimately, this is just a tool. This is a tool for them to learn how to do mindfulness meditation that they can do without any kind of physiological feedback. And I am hoping, I'm very hopeful that clinicians will be open to this idea to either augment pharmacology or even perhaps replace pharmacology in many different circumstances.
But the fascinating point is that when you do learn these meditation techniques, your brain does start producing a different frequency, to use my language. So, what we're discussing about tonight, it isn't just an abstract concept that if you do this, you'll feel calmer, you'll feel better. You're actually demonstrating here that meditation, mindful meditation, is demonstratable, and that when you do it, you will feel that calm, and it will bring a sense of relief from symptoms that you were perhaps experiencing before. It's really, really extraordinary.
That's exactly true. And we do bring people back over and over to get their brain scanned, and we can see subsequent change of their brain networks over time through the mindfulness meditations. This is quite real.
So you can see people's symptoms actually changing over time as they put what they've learned into practice in their lives.
And we not only see the symptoms change over time, but we can see the symptoms change in relation to their brain networks changing.
Great. Well, if you were nearer to me and I'm the other side of the pond from you, I'd be coming down, knocking on your door to have a go at this, because it looks fascinating. And, I think everyone who meditates would be really intrigued to see whether their mind actually wanders or not when they're meditating. It would be a good test for us all. Susan, if you could stop sharing your screen now, that's perfect, and we can see you. Wonderful. You're going to be with us throughout this session. So if we can, I'd like to use you as a bit of a guinea pig for all of our meditation sessions, just to see how you find it, how you get on, whether you're able to follow the meditations as we go through them. But let's leave it there for now, because we need to move on. But really fascinating work, and thank you so much for sharing what it is that you've been doing. You and of course a whole team. Susan heads up a whole team that are involved with this. So really, really interesting. So if I can bring Gabby in at this point, because we're going to have some sharing around meditation in the real world, how it works for different people. And Gabby, as I said, you work quite a pressurized job, and you managed to find meditation as a form of helping you with difficult emotional states that you pass through from time to time. And for you, it's quite a practical approach, meditation. Talk us through, for you, how it plays an active part in your life.
Sure. Well, I guess to start off with, just to say that I became a student of Raja Yoga 15 years ago, as you mentioned, and spent a good 10 years learning a lot about that form of meditation. And I really feel like that's created an amazing foundation for me and for my practice now. I think having some guidance, having some input from somewhere really, helps you find what works for you ultimately. But it kind of gives you that discipline, which I guess is part of a regular practice. But yes, it has evolved over time, and I would say probably maybe 3 years ago, I started doing more of a meditative journaling practice, you could say, which I call dialoguing with love. And that has really been, I don't know, a chapter change for me, you could say. It's been incredibly helpful in recognizing how I respond to myself, my own relationship with myself, just in my everyday situations and circumstances. So, you know, we all have triggers every now and again. Maybe it's an exchange with someone, something didn't go as well as we planned, and sometimes it's bigger things. You know, it can be small or big. And I've just found it really helpful to have a practice that gets me to tune in with whatever's going on at that particular moment in time. Try to become more aware of it in the first place, because I think it's so easy to not even realize that there might be some emotions or feelings going on below the surface, and then they build up and build up over time. So it's almost been like a way of self-monitoring, if I can put it that way. You know, checking in as regularly as I can. Yeah, I don't know if you want me to describe the practice a bit more. Or...
Yeah, I'm intrigued by this journaling aspect that you talk about, because not everyone who meditates does this, and I suppose it's one practical way of getting everything that's in your head down on paper, so that you can see it and maybe just step aside from it, put it in perspective, and feel lightened from the burden of all those thoughts that are going on inside your head.
Mm. Yes.
How do you use that?
Well, and what I do is I take a pen and a piece of paper and I write. I just allow whatever is, you know, I tune in with what's going on. What's the trigger for me at this moment in time? If I can identify it. And just write for maybe half a page, I guess it varies depending on how much I feel I need to just get it out. And I just write sort of stream of consciousness for a little bit. And that's very helpful because it increases your self-awareness as you write, and it also has a kind of cathartic effect. But then what I do is I put the pen down and I pick up a pencil usually, just because somehow that's how it evolved. But I actually, before I write anything with the pencil, I try to go into more of a meditative space. So really becoming very still inside, suspending the thoughts of my conscious everyday mind, and really trying to go into a quiet place, and then almost catching a response to what I've just written about. And I imagine that it's a loving response. So it's a response from love. That's why I call it dialoguing with love. And what's been amazing about it is that it feels like it doesn't come from the same mind that was writing with the pen. It comes from a different space. And so what comes out often surprises me. The sort of the wisdom or the guidance or the reassurance is perfectly customized for whatever it is I'm going through, or whatever it is I need to hear. And it creates quite a perceivable shift inside in terms of how I feel about myself. And because it changes how I feel about myself, it then often changes how I feel in relationship to whatever has triggered the emotion. Does that make sense?
Are you yeah, absolutely. Can I just check, are you able to bring the microphone a little bit nearer, because you've gone a little bit quieter than you were earlier, and we don't want to miss anything of what you're saying, because that's perfect. It's so interesting. Do you find yourself really quite surprised sometimes by what comes out when you're doing this journaling? And do you read it back and sort of analyze it, or do you just write it and then, you know, forget about it, put it away?
First of all, definitely am surprised sometimes at what comes out. But what I find is that the first step for me is usually about coming back to a space of love, a lens of love. So if there's a difficult emotion that's triggered, it usually makes us feel in some way unsafe, insecure. It might be a fearful emotion, it might be an angry emotion, doesn't matter what the emotion is, but it kind of takes us into a space where we might not feel that safe. So the first thing that happens is usually some kind of self-soothing or comforting, or really just seeing myself with a compassionate lens, with a kind lens. And then, because it changes how I feel about myself, the next step is often about then maybe challenging the perception that I've had that triggered that difficult emotion. So, and once you're in a safe, loving space, it becomes much easier to change the way you're actually perceiving whatever it is that's going on that's difficult. And so, yeah, I think you can't do the second step before doing the first step, in my experience.
And of course, many people have quite a strong inner critic, and they will judge themselves and put themselves down. And when you sit to meditate, thoughts will come up like, I'm no good at this. Who do I think I am to be able to do this? And so you're really addressing that head on by giving a voice to that part of you, writing it down so that you can see it for what it is, and then create some distance between you and that thought. And do you find it then easier to move into your meditation experience once you have put all that to one side and got it out of your head?
I think the response that I write with the pencil, let's say, it's sort of guiding me into a meditation, into a meditative space, and dissolving the difficult emotions that might be, that might have been there before. So once that shift has happened, it's almost like then I can go on with my day, but in a completely different frame of mind, or different consciousness, you could say. So for me, it's all about getting that shift. And sometimes it takes longer than other times. Sometimes it's easier to access than other times. But I can usually perceive very easily that when the change occurs, when I go from feeling, I guess you could say, in a fearful space to being in a loving space where I feel in good relationship with myself.
So it's having that loving dialogue with yourself, as you say, which then, once you feel safe, you can open up to that experience, you can trust it, and you can really sink into it, which is great, because, we're all different, and different things work for different people. And if you're someone who is quite sort of, writing oriented, I think it's lovely to include writing as part of your daily practice. And would you say this writing is something that you do once a week or twice a week, or how often would you do this?
I've had times where I've been able to do it every day. And I guess I go through different phases. At the moment, I'm probably doing it 2 or 3 times a week. And I guess that's where the discipline comes in. It's also, and I say discipline, but in a way it's a love. It's a loving discipline. I think, though, that when you're going through something challenging, there's a natural motivation. You feel more drawn to do something because you're uncomfortable in some way. And so, I guess when there's more challenging things going on, I tend to do it more frequently.
Well, it's great to talk to someone who has really journeyed with meditation as a very practical part of their life, and you know, you've created this this method that you're sharing very much by yourself. It's something that you've discovered and worked with, and you've made it work for you, and so that's really inspiring to hear such a you know, a profound process that can be made available to you through such a simple activity as actually getting out your pencil and a piece of paper and meeting yourself on that page. Well, Gabby, I could talk to you for longer, but I think it would be nice to move into an experience of the meditation that you're talking about. Obviously, we don't have time for each of us to do our own writing practice, which would be a lovely thing to do. But if you could just lead us into a meditation of the sort of thing that you experience having done that journaling, that writing that you've talked about, and we can just get an insight into what works for you once you're in that stage of going into the meditation experience. That would be great.
Great, thanks, Philippa. So I guess I would just invite everyone to imagine that it's not me speaking to you, but love speaking to you, love personified as you listen to these words. So let's just start by taking a deep breath. And as you breathe out, allow yourself to become very still. To arrive fully to this present moment. And if it's helpful, imagine that you're just gathering up all the thoughts of your conscious everyday mind and letting them hang lightly from the ceiling of your mind. Making space and quietness inside. And as you arrive more fully in the present moment, notice how your awareness awakens and you become more conscious of the sounds that might be around you. Maybe that's voices in the background or just the sound of a ticking clock. More conscious of the objects around you, the light. And just see if you can listen. And tap into the quietness of this moment. The gentleness of this moment. Allowing some invisible magic to seep out from behind the curtain of our awareness. It's as though everything around you is holding you in stillness and quietness. Reaching out to you. Reminding you that you are Okay. You are safe in this moment. You are held. You are supported. You are deeply accepted. You are understood. You are special, so precious. And so though you step into the awareness of your own value, and just rest in the stillness and safety of that awareness. Not value based on who likes or approves, not value based on what you've achieved or not achieved. Just the simple value because you exist. And so whatever in your life concerns you, whatever troubles you or grabs for your attention, from this space of feeling completely safe in the awareness of your own value, look upon that situation, those players and yourself with kind eyes, with compassionate eyes. Know that there is nothing to fix or change or control or explain or prove or figure out. The only thing to do, your only job, is to come to this place of stillness. Come back to the awareness of your value. And then see how you are moved to respond. Allow love to move you. Without any sense of force or control. It's as though we can relax and surrender to love's flow. So let's just rest for 1 or 2 more moments in this sense of complete safety and stillness. In the awareness of our own value. And then slowly, when you're ready, please feel free to open your eyes if you've had them closed. And bring this practice to a close. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gabby. You really took us to a very deep place of self-love and self-acceptance. And it made me realize the importance of really feeling safe in yourself. If you're going to let go, you first of all do need to feel safe. You need to feel held and supported, because otherwise you're going to hold on. And so much of our life is about trying to control things around us, hold on to them. But actually meditation is about letting go and allowing yourself to feel that embrace of love for yourself, and love coming to you from beyond yourself as well. So thank you so much. That was really, really exquisite. And, you know, apologies if you were struggling with the sound there, but hopefully by turning up the sound on your device, you were able to catch everything Gabby was saying, because so beautiful. Gabby, stay with us. But for now, we're going to move on to another meditator's experience. This time it's going to be Yogesh from Turkey, who is going to share some insight into what meditation means to you. And Yogesh, it must be quite hard for you in a way, because you've always known meditation. You've never known a time in your life when meditation wasn't happening around you. But Gabby there giving us a really good insight into a starting point of self-love, self-acceptance, and feeling safe. For you, though, the starting point with seeing the self as a spiritual being, as a non-physical being, can you talk us through what you mean by that, and what difference that shift in perspective can make when it comes to sitting down to practice meditation?
Yeah, certainly the beginning point of meditation, and in my view, the basis of how we experience life, is very much a question of identity, how I see myself. And I'm sure our listeners also are aware of this saying that you don't see life as it is, but you see life as you are, according to who you think you are. And so I find that exploring identity is really the foundation of being able to meditate. And so before doing meditation, I found that it was important for me to do some spiritual study. And as you say, I was exposed to this when I was a child. And so as you grow up, especially in your teenage years, there are many, many challenges which come. And you get into competition, you're looking for identity, you're trying to prove yourself. And so growing up in that kind of environment was also quite confusing. Plus, of course, as you get a bit older, when you're kind of 16, 17, you're making decisions about your study and how that's going to impact the rest of your life, your working life. And I had people giving me lots of advice. Yogesh, you should study this, you should go there, you should do the other. Even relatives I didn't know I had were advising me. So, you know, I wanted to please everyone. But one question that came to me was, well, what is it that I really want? And have I even explored this question? And so when I would sit quietly and ask myself that question, then I realized that the answer is already inside me. But because the mind was quite busy trying to please others, I couldn't hear the voice of my own inner wisdom trying to guide me. And so one of the things that meditation gave me was the chance to be still and really listen to myself and to find my identity beyond the identity of family, race, nationality, culture, and so on. So I find that in this regard, in addition to meditation, it's quite important to do some spiritual study. Otherwise, it's like a bird trying to fly with one wing, and it can't take off. It just goes around in circles. And without proper knowledge and understanding, I think sometimes a person can become, kind of like a head in the clouds type person, wanting to have a feeling and experience, but where is it taking me? There could be lack of clarity there. So for me, I found both of those coming together made it meaningful so that I could be at peace with myself, but I could also move forward with my life and live a life of meaning and usefulness to the people around me.
Very, very interesting idea. And when you talk about the importance of study, and it's like having a framework within which you can operate. Otherwise, you're just sort of grabbing branches as you walk along, and it can be. I think that's a stage that you go through of exploring and trying things out. But then you reach a point where you find something which you can then stay with long enough to really experience it deeply. So this importance of study that you're stressing, I think, is a really, really important point. And for you, in terms of how you shift your awareness from seeing yourself as the physical body, with the culture, the gender, whatever the background is, to seeing yourself as a spiritual being, what is it that you're really beginning to understand about yourself when you make that shift?
Firstly, let me say that, I was 8 or 9 when I started, so I had these experiences before even understanding them. So I would sit in meditation and would experience myself to be the spiritual being or to be the soul. And it's only later, when I began to study, that I understood what I was actually experiencing. So for me, it's like stepping back from all the masks that we usually wear, as we mentioned before, the body, the age, the race, the culture, the nationality. And in a way, all of these for me are what I have and what I do. But I'm not what I have. I'm not what I do. And so stepping back from those two realms, coming to who I am. And the answer to that in our spiritual study is I am the inner being, the spiritual energy. I am the soul. And that's what we visualize as this star of spiritual light in the center of the forehead. But then I would say, I make a distinction, Philippa, between people who meditate and people who are meditators. So I think a lot of people meditate to relax, to deal with the stress of life and so on, and that can be fine. But for me, what was important is to be a meditator, and that's a lifestyle. And for me, that meant going through day-to-day life, interacting with people, traveling, doing my daily duties, but at the same time being vigilant and checking to see, what are my thoughts doing? Am I overthinking? Am I holding on to useless memories? Am I wasting my precious thought power? And I think that's what helped me to build meditation into my lifestyle, to realize that it's not just about sitting down, but it's actually living in a state of meditation. So I'm respecting my mind and using my thought energy in an optimum way.
It's a very good point, because I think a lot of people just get the idea that meditation is, it's like a class that you can do, and it's something that you can, maybe practice a couple of times. But what you're saying is that it becomes more than that. It becomes how you live. It informs every part of how you live. live, and how you live actually is integral to the practice of meditation, because your lifestyle and what you're doing day to day is going to affect your thoughts, your mind, and your mind is going to affect your lifestyle. So it becomes a whole package that once you engage with it, and it's at that point that you begin to really see changes in your life happen when you make that commitment to it.
Yeah, it's for me, it's like being an athlete. So if an athlete wishes to win, for example, the gold medal in the races, then for her or for him, eating healthy is a lifestyle. So she or he will naturally be aware of what I eat, when I eat, how much I eat, because maintaining optimum weight is essential for an athlete. And so for me, meditation is like being a mental athlete, where as I go through the day, I want to take care of how I'm spending my thought energy. Because when we think too much, or we have lots of waste or superfluous thoughts, it does create a heaviness in the mind. And then when you sit to meditate, it's like, you find it difficult to experience anything because of the weight of all the waste and unnecessary thoughts. So there is a combination between lifestyle and the quality of meditation where you're sitting down. And that's one reason I think why this particular meditation has been very useful for me. It's because it's about making it natural rather than just a technique or a practice to do.
It becomes who you are very much. And I noticed with Gabby, she was doing meditation with her eyes open. And that is actually a practice that is encouraged in Raj Yoga, with the idea that, meditation isn't just something you go off and do for 5 minutes, 10 minutes at various times in the day, but it becomes a natural way of being in the whole of your life. So you can be meditating whilst you're washing up, whilst you're walking along, whilst you're performing your tasks. So I'd like to just sort of drill you a little bit on your own, what you do when you meditate. Because you've been in Istanbul and you've had people around you, obviously pre-COVID, and that's a lovely experience to meditate with other people. But here you are now in a house that is not where you normally live. So how would you go about your day-to-day practice? Would you find a space within the house that you would set up as your little zone, or do you not need to do that? Would you sit down intentionally and have focused thinking? Would you do breathing? Would you have certain thoughts that you would introduce into your mind as you're beginning to meditate? What does it look like in your actual life, being this meditator that you're talking about?
Yeah, I do choose a comfortable chair in the house. And so I do sit down. Actually, I face the sea, which is behind me. I open the curtains and look at that. So I think it's important to be physically comfortable. And I do make specific time to sit and meditate, in addition to going for a walk and so on. So when I do sit down, then the first thing I always do is to become aware of my spiritual identity. And so I bring my awareness, up to the center of my own forehead, and I'll demonstrate this in the meditation that we do, and actually talk to myself about who I am, my spiritual identity beyond my identity in this world, and to experience the peace which is within me. And so I find what helps is to fix times during the day when I actually do that. Morning time is always the best time because it's before the noise starts and before you get busy with things, and so that's like a kind of fixed, as I say, a time where you reserve for your own meditation. Evening time also I fix to make sure I have that meditation. For me, morning time is like charging the battery of the soul first thing in the morning. And the evening meditation is like taking a soul shower, where, during the day, you may have picked up things, you may have had to waste thoughts, you may have, got irritated or something. So evening meditation just washes away all that stuff from the soul, and you feel very light and free. So there are fixed times to sit, but also then during the day, attention on my own thoughts.
And you mentioned there having an inner guide, which, you know, really you can connect with and can journey with. And I think that's a lovely idea, to have this sense that you're not on your own. Even if you are physically on your own, you're never alone, because there is this sense of a guiding presence that we can tap into and draw energy from, which is a lovely thought.
Yeah, absolutely. There are two things. One is there is this inner guide, which I would call as the eternal self, the inner wisdom. But then the next stage of meditation, which we call as yoga, is then the connection with the supreme source. And that's another whole experience to experience the peace and the love and the power that comes from the divine source. So first we call it as the journey inward, and then the journey upward. So tapping into one's own personal source, and then tapping into the divine source. And I think that's what really gives us the power.
Fantastic. Well, do remember that if you would like to ask a question to any of our meditators in today's session, you're very welcome to use the Q&A box and post your questions. And you know, we have had quite a few questions coming in which are being dealt with offline, but I'll feed them in as and when necessary. But Yogesh, you talked about tapping that source within, and the journey inwards and the journey upwards. It would be lovely if you could kind of give us a little hop start into that experience, and if we could just jump into your experience and ride with you as you go on that journey for a few minutes, and experience what you're talking about, that would be great.
Okay, great. So once again, I would just invite everybody to have their back straight if possible, and your feet flat on the floor. And as mentioned earlier, if it's comfortable for you, then you could just have your eyes half open and even just focus upon the image in front of you on the screen. And so when I sit for meditation, I want to be with my own self. I want to experience my true self. And so I ask myself, who am I? I know there is more to me than simply the roles and the responsibilities that I have in daily life. There is more to me than the labels and the identities that I carry. There is more to me than the masks I wear in everyday life. And when I look in the mirror, I see the reflection of my face, my body. But there is more to me than simply this. Let me experience my eternal identity beyond the physical. And so I bring my awareness up towards the center of the forehead. And here I picture this wonderful star of peaceful light. This beautiful star of peaceful energy in the center of the forehead. And from this star, waves of peaceful and healing energy radiate throughout my body. And this beautiful star of peace in the center of the forehead, this is me. This is I, the eternal self. This is I, the true self. This is I, the soul. I, the soul, I am this eternal point of living spiritual energy. I am light. I am eternal. And deep within myself, there is a reservoir of inner peace. And this peace has always been inside me. And now I choose to emerge this peace once again. All I have to do is just to be aware. To be aware, I am peace. I am light. I am eternal. I am free. Now I, the soul, I turn my thoughts to the one who is known as the ocean of peace, the ocean of love, the ocean of mercy, the supreme, the divine, the true friend of the soul. The one who accepts me as I am. The one who does not see my weakness. The one who knows me better than I know myself. Let me experience this divine companionship, of the true source, the eternal source of peace, of love, of comfort. Keeping this experience with me, I return to the awareness of my surroundings. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Yogesh. We really are going deeper and deeper into the experience of meditation as our program progresses. And Gabby introduced us to this idea of dialoguing with ourselves, with the idea of nurture and self-love. And you have now given us this experience of really diving into that experience of love from the divine source. So really feeling the waves of love coming from both directions. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much indeed, Yogesh, for that really very profound place of stillness and silence that you took us into. Wonderful. So we're going to zip across now from the Turkish coast over to the the coast of Florida as we bring our final meditator into the conversation. Shireen's been sat there quietly meditating throughout, but it's interesting when I think of your story as I introduced you at the beginning of the program, Shireen. You really have been on quite a journey yourself. If you think of growing up in India, being a student of engineering, coming over to America, and then suddenly discovering this whole journey of meditation. It's quite a span of different realities that you have had to live through. And I wonder how you went from that to being this creative person that is producing such beautiful work with your audiovisual meditation commentaries. How did that idea come about?
I guess in a meditation. Actually, even I wasn't very sure about my creative abilities for the longest time. And I guess, meditation really brings out what your calling is. And I remember about 15 years ago, really going through my life and wondering, even after I've been already meditating for more than 10 years at that point, but I was wondering what my calling was, what my contribution to the world was. And I did a lot of soul searching, a lot of meditation, a lot of silence, and then I thought, this is something I could really do, because there were all these ideas going on in my head about, how it could be presented. And so I guess it just gradually evolved from that.
And you had to teach yourself the skills of how to physically produce it, which you do yourself, because all of that was new to you. But I guess having an engineering scientific mind has helped with all the sort of the technical side of things, which you've had to get your head round. But was there also a sense in you of wanting to really do something that was of service to humanity, that people could really have a profound experience through what you were offering?
Yes. Actually, just this morning, I'm preparing for a session later tonight, and I was, the question I'm asking everyone is, what is your superpower? So I feel that each of us really has a superpower, which is a spiritual superpower. I'm not talking about Superman flying and things like that. And I feel that my superpower is love for the Supreme Source and love for humanity. And I've always really cared about humanity. And that's why actually I started on this journey, more than me experiencing anything personally, because my life was going fine. But I was really feeling how what everyone was going through. And I was really feeling their pain, and I felt that even these meditations are a response to what I feel for people, my empathy for people, what they're going through, and let me help in some way.
So it's really become something that has built up. And do you have feedback from people as to how they have worked with these visual meditation commentaries, and how they have changed the way they see things?
Yes. So we have this YouTube channel now. Before, we used to put it on TV. So we have this YouTube channel now called Release Your Wings. And so we do get feedback every day on the channel of how the meditations are helping them, how the talks. So we do even interviews and talks and spiritual talks, and how they're really helping them. Yes, we do get a lot of feedback, and that's very nice to get that feedback.
So you obviously put a huge amount of thought into each one, but if you could condense your hope, your desire for people to experience something through these meditations, what is the message that you're trying to convey, would you say?
Just today, when we were sitting, when you were introducing the program and you were talking about serenity and well-being, I was thinking that peace, which is serenity, is an aspect of peace. Peace is the underlying, like you could say, a gateway experience for everything. I feel to even experience love, we need to experience peace. If I'm not experiencing peace, then I won't be able to experience love, whether self-love or love from the source or love other people's love. So I feel that one thing is that, so I would say, to answer your questions, two things I would like people to take away. One is that they experience that peace, that deep reservoir of peace that's within us. I want people to experience that. And two, I want people to not be afraid to go within. I want people to understand there is a deep treasure inside each of us, and I want them to tap into their treasure. I feel many times people are afraid to go within, and that's something I want to demystify, that of the process of going within, of the process of connecting to our original nature, of experiencing peace, of just being in solitude with the self and really communing with the self, communing with the source. And so I want to demystify that, and I want people to feel that that's something that there's a huge treasure and it's very enjoyable, and they should do it often, not just every day, often.
And do you feel that the current times that we're going through and the stresses that people are under, that people are reaching out more and more for some supports, for some tools and techniques that they can use to help them get through what can often be very painful times that people are experiencing?
To be honest, I'm not sure if it's more. I feel it should be more, but I'm not sure if it's more. We do get a little bit more maybe, but I don't think it's as much as it should be. I feel people are underutilizing this tool, this meditation tool, of just connecting to their spiritual identity, connecting with the source. I feel they are underutilizing that. And so I really, my hope is that more people would do it. And especially now, I think we need it more than ever before. And so I hope more people do it. I don't see as many people as I want, taking benefit from it. I don't see as many people doing so.
It's interesting because, throughout the series, we've spoken to other meditators who have reported that the take up for wanting to learn meditation they have noticed a difference from the countries that they're living in. It could possibly be because you're already living in one of the most beautiful parts of the world, in Florida. So maybe people where you are aren't feeling the pressures perhaps quite the same as others, but one way or another, it's something that I do feel globally people are wanting to question more deeply and to find that inner connection. So Shireen, it would be lovely to talk to you a little bit after we've seen your audio-visual presentation as well. So maybe you could just say a few words about what it is we're going to experience, and then you could play us this lovely creation that you've done especially for us today, which would be so nice.
Thank you. It's called Restored and Refreshed. And the hope is that you'll be restored and refreshed after the meditation. It's both the visual, it has music, and it has voice. And here it is. Take a nice, slow, deep breath. Breathe in and out. Picture yourself near a beautiful mountain lake, a place of pristine and pure silence, where you can feel that great quiet mystery of the world. Breathe in the silence. Breathe that into every part of your being. Allow the stillness to massage every aspect of your body. You're beginning to feel completely relaxed. In front of you is a radiant sunrise. The sun is emanating rays of light and peace. Give yourself permission and fill yourself with this light. Let the rays of peace and serenity enter into you. Breathe them in completely. Fill yourself with this vibration of pure, peaceful energy. With each breath, you savor and take in even more light and peace. You hear the wind and the trees and the birds. Feel the wind on your skin. You sense that the earth removes your tension as it pours from your body into the ground. Empty all your stress in the muscles into the earth. Let the earth take everything you don't need in your body away. Take another deep breath and imagine that a silent, powerful energy that lives at the core of the earth is coming up in the form of golden threads and is connecting to your energetic field, to your body. Through these golden roots, you become infused with that still, quiet energy of the earth. Allow this energy to come up and through you. It is relaxing you, and the tension you have in your body is dissipating. Just release that stress and anxiety and anything you don't need. Just let it go. You are releasing it completely. Feel yourself more and more relaxed as you connect to the earth and your breath. In this state, you sense your light, your pure consciousness. You become aware of your light and your true identity as a spiritual being. You're in this body, in this world of form and matter. You are light, you're distinct from it. Pure light suspended within it. In this awareness of yourself as a soul, the spiritual being, you're beginning to feel totally free. Free from the future, free from the past, free from guilt or regrets. You're just absorbed in being, immersed in the experience of being. While you're breathing in and out and observing the beauty of your surroundings, you begin to feel more and more relaxed, more and more centered in a space of total tranquility. This is bringing you a sense of vitality, calmness, and well-being. In this pure space of silence, in this solitude, you feel restored and refreshed. Om Shanti, I am peace.
Shireen, that was absolutely exquisite. I can't think of a better way to finish our 6 sessions of Raj Yoga meditation than with what you have just presented there. You had this beautiful weaving of the music, the visuals, and your voice just sort of gently caressing the whole experience. Phenomenal. Hugely moved by what you have produced. And if people would like to experience more of the same, they can go to YouTube and just type in Release Your Wings, and all the different meditation commentaries will appear. And I'm sure as times get harder, people will more and more appreciate this beautiful gift that you are sharing with the world. Do you want to leave us with any final message, Shireen, for how this experience is something that we can really bring into our heart and bring into our everyday life, and that anybody can do it?
Yes, you said it really well. Anyone can do it. And also, it's a tool that is so beautiful. The treasure we seek is really within us. And that treasure is available for everyone. And we just have to tap into it. And I really was moved by all of the presentations before me, and it's been just wonderful. Thank you.
It has been such a rich time that we've spent together, and we've actually covered a huge amount of ground, right from academic research in laboratories through to this presentation of the natural world and our way of being in it. If we could just bring everyone together now as we move to the close. Susan, I said that I was going to use you as a little bit of a guinea pig earlier on. What do you think your subjects, your clients would have made of that meditation commentary that we just experienced from Shireen?
Oh, that was absolutely spectacular. I was amazed by how wonderful it was. And I'm sure all of our subjects, our children and patients alike, would have really enjoyed it and had great benefits and been able to modulate their default mode network accordingly.
I love it. We're not talking about meditation anymore. We're talking about modulating your default network, and how do we do that? And what have you taken from today's session yourself, Susan, in terms of ideas that you might go away and practice or explore further?
I was really influenced by everybody's presentations. I really like Gabby's self-love and acceptance, and her focus on nudge and judgmental aspects based on achievements, and just really acceptance and stillness and awareness. I really enjoyed Yogesh's presentation and journey as well in terms of meditation as a lifestyle. And I loved the fabulous journey that Shireen took us. It was just spectacular, all of them.
Absolutely fabulous. Well, really heartfelt thanks to all of you, because in a way what you've done is not easy, because you're trying to describe an experience that is very personal, it's very individual, and in many ways it's quite ephemeral, and how you put that into words and how you communicate that to others isn't necessarily that easy, but you have all really made it seem something that is within the grasp of everyone. And why would you not want to have this lovely experience as part of your everyday life? Absolutely fabulous. So in our closing minutes, it would be lovely just to bring in Hilal and Yelena, and also behind the scenes who's been working to coordinate everything, Margaret Barron as well, whose name you've seen at the top of the screen. So Yelena, huge thanks to you for really making this whole series possible. It has been a great journey, and you've been such a fabulous hostess and moderator for all our events. And thanks to Hilal too for being the original inspiration for doing this whole series. And I think our closing comments must come from you, Margaret, because you were the one who took the idea of doing this and ran with it, and have done so beautifully. What for you have been the standout moments?
Well, I feel that, you know, the whole world has been going through such a big thing, really, with this pandemic. And I think this series has really, for those who've tuned in, has given them hope. And that even though there's a lot going on the outside, the more we go inside and as everyone shared today, resonate with that kind of deep peace that's within ourselves, that true identity of the self, and then take ourselves up and connect, then we have a kind of resilience that when we come back out into the world, it's not that we come out with fear and, you know, confusion. We have something really precious that allows us to move through all situations and get the best from them. So I think the whole series has given people kind of deeper insight into how to do this. Every session has been a bit different, but there's a kind of consistent message that it's about your awareness and it's about your attitude and the vision you hold and what you bring into action. And ultimately, don't just do things for yourself, do something that serves the world. And that is what is going to make you feel great. That would be
Fantastic. And creating a better world for us all is, of course, the intention behind all of this. And if anyone would like to catch earlier sessions, who do they email to get the link for the different recordings?
Well, they can send to, because Yelena's address is up there and she can always forward it to me. And we will also send out some information, because we've talked a lot about meditation today, but there's actually courses that people can take, and there's going to be some different websites, and through those different websites they can actually, you know, take sessions, either group, individual, and actually learn the foundation of Raj Yoga meditation, which all our meditators at some point did the course. Maybe not Yogesh, because he grew up with it, but you know, there's a kind of systematic way of learning to meditate, and when you do that, it becomes your own. And I really advise everyone, do from one of the websites, there's some in America, there's England, you know, do take the course and learn how to do it. It's not a difficult thing to do, but you do need some instruction to help you. That you're hearing the result tonight of years of practice, but you have to start the practice, and that's all it's all about, is just starting a practice.
And just make it something that is a cornerstone of your life. And of course, one of the spin-offs from this whole lockdown is that so much has moved online. So wherever you're living, you can jump online and there are courses happening online, meditations happening online. It's all available at the click of a few buttons. Thank you very much indeed, Margaret. And indeed, thank you to all of our guests for today's session and for all our previous sessions as well. It's been a terrific journey. So huge thanks. And I wish everybody all the best for their onward journey with their own experience of meditation as they move through these difficult times. And I wonder, Shireen, if you could just close us out with a few of your own thoughts, just to finish in that way of being in stillness and silence that we've been talking about throughout this whole session. That would be great.
Take a deep breath. Breathe in and out. And as you're breathing in and out, focus on yourself as a spiritual being, having a human experience. This is a shift in consciousness. And as you shift your consciousness to the spiritual realm, You realize there's a whole universe of love flowing toward you. All I have to do is move away from this world of form and matter and become light and weightless and pure consciousness. And as soon as I do that, I tap into the source, the divine, the ocean of love. I'm surrounded by possibilities. I am surrounded by love. In this state of being, I feel I'm extremely loved. I have a deep capacity for love. And the supreme, the ocean of love, has pure, altruistic, generous love for me. And all I have to do is go within and shift my awareness to being a spiritual person, being, having a human experience. I am light, I'm weightless, and I'm a spiritual being having this human experience. With that powerful thought, I come back to here and now. Om Shanti, peace.
Thank you, Shireen, for closing us out. And thank you to all of you for being part of this journey. From all of us here, we wish you well on your onward journey. Take care, keep safe. And until next time, Om Shanti and goodbye.
Yeah, thank you so much, Philippa, Shireen, Susan, Yogesh, and Gabby for delivering such a beautiful, beautiful presentation. Thank you, Hilal, again for bringing this opportunity our way. And a huge thank you goes to Margaret, who orchestrated the whole thing, as Philippa said that. And Susan, that was amazing, really connected the science and spirituality. That was truly amazing to see that. And thank you, every participant, for joining us tonight. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right.